Kirk Hilliard.
And it's Rusty Byrd. It's the Kirk and Byrd Show. We are blessed to have with us again Coach Lamont Strothers. He was on the show with us last year, but we want to bring him back, talk about this great season they've already had and what they look to do. But in case you don't know, we'll ask him to tell us a little bit more about himself. I know he may just not, really tell us everything, like not bragging and all that. So I'm going to brag for my brother. All right. If for those that don't know, Lamont Strothers is from the 757. He's a 757 legend. And the reason I say that is because he started at Forest Glen High School, came out of there in 86, then went on to play at Christopher Newport University, where he was an All-American, D3 All-American, 1991, first team All-American, Division III Player of the Year by, I think it was D3 or Basketball Times. All right. And then was a second-round draft pick of the Portland Trail Blazers. And so he's done all those things, and he also played overseas, but he's back in the 757. Welcome to the show, Coach. He's the head coach of Menchville basketball, 7-0, number one team in Class 5A. Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate y'all having me again. It's always a pleasure, man.
Yeah. We're happy to get you on here. You know what I was thinking, Rusty? And by the way, you should get a pay raise, man, after that intro. It's not that anybody is, but it's strange. Like most of the coaches we're talking to now are our age or younger, more younger. It's starting to get used to that. So you're right in our wheelhouse, Coach. And for those out there, please subscribe to us. It helps us a lot. And, for those seeing our show for the first time, we profiled Coach Strothers, Coach Strut. It's episode 54. So now with Rusty getting you primed to take over, I don't know, North Carolina, Duke, one of them's coming open, but we're going to get you that offer. But we told you a little bit, he's a 757 kid, grew up in Suffolk, incredible ball player, second round pick. And those were in the days, Coach, where didn't they have, how many rounds did they have back then, Coach? Wasn't it like 5, 6, 7?
Only 2.
It must have been in the 80s because Rick Wilson was third round. And then
they used to have 4 or 5 rounds before.
Right.
Then in my era, in the year I got selected, it was only 2.
Yeah. Which is
okay.
Yeah. So, as always, we're just going to have a talk about basketball. We're excited. The season's starting up. We're getting here on Christmas time. I was just talking to Coach about the old Fort Eustis Christmas tournaments. And so, we're going to cover his team, his players, and then we'll talk about the Peninsula. We'll talk about the Eastern region, 5, 6, and then some other things, just some topics. So we just wanted to take advantage of Coach's time. So, Coach, did we miss anything with that intro? Anything that you want to add in there? How long have you been at Menchville? I was looking for a bio today. I sent you a LinkedIn request, but I could not find it. Yeah. That's okay. What year did you start, Coach?
This is my 4th year.
Okay.
I took over when Coach Moore passed away.
Right.
I want to say that was this 2022, so 2018 maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I think Coach Moore, our senior year, Rusty, might have been his first year at Warwick. Does it sound right, Coach Strutt?
His first year at Warwick
86.
Should have been somewhere 86, 87.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Before that, he was an assistant at Denby. In fact, he was actually my brother and I's. I remember when he first got the job at Reservoir Middle School as a PE teacher. This was like in 82, 83. He was one of our PE teachers, and my mom was a PE teacher in the school system back then. They knew each other. But then I remember him coaching at Denby and then getting his own gig and just, he's a great coach, great guy. All of us were very sad when he passed away. So you've been at Menchville, so this is your maybe 5th season.
Yeah, he passed away 2017. So it's like basically my 5th year, 4th season.
Okay, all right.
Something like that. Yeah.
And just for those that don't know, what has your record been when you took over the program? Was it one of the top teams in the district? Was it rebuilding? What did you have to go through? Because we know right now, especially last year, it's one of the top teams in Class 5.
This has always been good.
So when I took over, we were 1-5, and that year we finished 8-12. Huh. And then the next year we were 17-6, I believe.
That's a big turnaround.
And then the next year we were 20-5. Then we had COVID. And then last year we were, I think 18-8 or 8, something like that. It's 18-7, 19-6, somewhere around there.
Right. Wow. Yeah, you've done some great stuff, because I look back on they had some losing seasons, but prior to you getting there, but since you've been there, you guys have experienced a lot of success. Can you tell us a little bit about, let's wrap up last year, because it was a lot of good teams in Class 5.
Yeah.
In the Peninsula District, we had Menchville, Kecoughtan, I believe only had 1 loss going into the postseason. Woodside is always tough, extremely tough. And then the other side of the water, Class 5, you had Maury. There were a few others, but did you guys play Maury in the regional, was it semifinals, regional final, right?
Right.
Okay. And that was at their small gym, right?
We played the regional finals at the Scope.
At the Scope.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
No, you know what? Who did maybe Maury played Kecoughtan and put Kecoughtan out? Was that it?
We put Kecoughtan out. Maury put Woodside out.
I picked y'all to lose, Coach. No, we were talking to Larry Rabama, the Virginian pilot, and it was like a toss-up, and he was saying that Maury was going to win because of the small gym. So it was someone else in 5.
So Maury played Woodside.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
That was it. Okay.
Right.
That was
Maury played Woodside at the Scope for the semis, and we played Kecoughtan, and we played Maury, and then Maury had to play Bayside, I believe. And then Maury had to play. We played Bayside. Maury played Indian River, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. So now, did you lose to Maury in the regional finals?
Yeah,
in the regional finals and the state semis.
Oh, okay. So you won the quarterfinal?
No, the top 2 teams from the region go to the state tournament. So they lost.
Right.
And did you lose to them again? You lost to them again, right?
We lost to Maury in the regional championship. Then we played Bayside. We won at the last second. And then we played Maury again at their spot for the state semis.
Right. There you go. So with Rusty talking about, the progression, I mean, I would think you've got a good motivational story to tell your kids. Great team. Your sons are there. I mean, you've got more than one college prospect. I think that a couple kids signed early signing day, which has already happened for basketball. But, you've got a chance to go back to Richmond, and we want to talk about, some of the teams that you're facing. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your team now and where you think you are and where you think you're headed, and to get that state championship. We saw Highland Springs play Saturday night, Rusty. Good looking team, but just give us an overview of the 2022-2023 Menchville Monarchs.
Well, we lost one piece. That was Dallas, the big kid.
Yep.
But many of those times that we had to make that run, Dallas gave us a different dynamic, and then when he went out, it was a different dynamic, and so we're having to play the dynamic that we had to play when Dallas wasn't on the floor. So we're comfortable, playing how we're playing. We're a year older. We got that experience last year. It was tough. Plummer does a good job with Morey. And they still have some pieces. And Northview is going to be a tough out. People forgetting. I don't think people giving Northview the credit. They won overtime this year with Morey already.
Yep.
Actually, Morey's been in 2 overtime games already this year. And they won both. And so, but as far as us, we have, my son and AJ, that those guys are the staple of that team. But however, we have guys like Andre Carter, we have Darian Parker that's been playing great. Then Eric Turner. We have guys that, we have a pretty deep bench that the guys is brought into playing defense the right way, and they are very good at making adjustments. Once I give them adjustment, they're good at carrying it out and disseminating information is always good when the teams receive it, and so I think we can play up tempo, we can slow it down. They've been taught that way. Like many of those kids I've had since they were, again, 9, 10 years old. So there were things that they're doing now that they were doing then, but now just they're older, more mature, and understand when to go, when to slow it down, and we just played Woodside, which is going to always be a battle here in the PD.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was a good game. It was a lot of emotion at the beginning of the game. It was a lot of emotion at halftime of the girls' game. They're local kids that know each other well. Used to playing with each other, and we just try to keep it competitive. And we try to stay competitive. And everybody knows the whole game is about getting the edge. Trying to find that edge. In the weight room, or in on film. Just trying to create that edge. And right now, we have it. Just hoping we can continue it.
Coach, let me ask you something. When we were growing up, I know Kirk and I were in the Peninsula District, and Menchville always had a really good basketball team. Denby had one. Woodside didn't exist. And Menchville Denby was a huge rivalry. Right. Now, Denby in a lot of sports have taken a step down. It's got a lot of factors play into that. But Woodside's been around for about at least 20 years now, right? Over 20 years. I think they came around in 96.
Somewhere around there.
So let me ask you, who is your rival? Is it Woodside? Is it Denby? Or is it maybe Warwick or Heritage?
I don't know. I don't have a rival. Now people may be rival against us, but I don't look at it. I don't have a rival. For one, I didn't grow up around here.
Right. Okay.
And so but we are right now. Everyone we play is like a rival because everybody wants to be Menchville. So, but if you would say who's the rival now, who's created that rivalry would be Woodside.
Woodside, right?
Because they've been the best 2 teams lately. And I still think Heritage is. I still think I'm on it. I still think Heritage is it has some athleticism, and Dimitri is doing a good job there. They're competing. Warwick has some talent this year, but they're raw to the game. So right now the best 2 teams has been in Newport News has been Woodside and Menchville, and the public has, and I think Steph has done a good job as far as creating a rivalry as well. to create, making it to being a rivalry, because we've been the best two teams. And so, but I don't look at it as if, it's a rival to me. I mean, I look at it as, it's two local teams competing, because we got kids that know each other, and those kids they want the best up the other kid. Everybody wants that one up. And so right now, early in the season, we are the one up. So and we in on January 31st.
Okay. I was thinking Warwick Ferguson was a big rivalry back in the day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was when I was like a 7th or 8th grader, I remember going to see Warwick and Ferguson. My mom taught at Ferguson, and it was standing room only to see Anthony Solomon and
Kevin Ricks.
Yeah. And Ferguson had Lonnie
Miller. Yep.
And he was going to Tennessee, and Anthony Solomon. I mean, and the game was just incredible. I mean, the atmosphere, it was so much fun, and so those were some really strong.
It's neighborhood kids though, so it's like a neighborhood rivalry. I'm just across the street here, but we go to separate schools. And it's the same thing like Woodside. Some of those kids grew up playing AAU together, or grew up on the Parks Rec League together, and so the and then when they rezone, they end up having to go to separate schools and so forth. So they still want to compete.
And if I'm not mistaken, the last team from the Peninsula District and the city of Newport News to win a basketball state championship. No, wait a minute. I think Hampton won. I know Woodside won too.
Woodside won too.
05, 06. Did anybody win after that? What about, did Hampton win with Cat?
Hampton
Was Cat
won.
after that?
Hampton won.
Cat Barber?
I think it was I think it might have been Cat Barber's team. I'm not sure, but I know Hampton won.
Okay, so Hampton won after
and I know
that.
Bethel went, but they didn't win.
We lost, Bethel. I went to Bethel, and we lost to TC Williams in 08.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I had the team the year before, and everyone was thinking that we were going to lose because the 06, they lost, at the end of 06, they lost Duke Cruz and all those guys.
That's right.
And so the year that I took over, they, everybody thought the team was going to lose and so forth. And we were in first place for a while, tied with Hampton. But people had chosen Woodside to win it because they had the Utupin boy and that crew. But then Menchville also had Daryl Shazier. They had what's his name? Tall boy. He left and went to Massanutten or Miller, and then he went to Arkansas. I think Arkansas.
Well, Steph played at Arkansas.
No, not him.
Okay.
Marvell, not his brother. His brother was named Marvell Powell. Marshawn Powell. They had Marshawn Powell, and they had Kevin McNeil. They had a huge squad, man. And that team was pretty good. So that year that I didn't have a big, so I had Bill Weaver having to play the big spot. I had Trey Lee, Jontel Evans. I had the smartest point guard in the district at that time was Adrian Webb, who's now the coach for the girls at Menchville. And so that we had a pretty good team. And
how long were you there?
I only took over that year that Bree had stepped down to go to athletics. But I agreed if it was a contingent upon if Bree wanted to come back, I would step down and let him come back.
I remember he stepped down. I didn't realize you were the one that took over. Okay. Yeah, I didn't remember it. All right.
Right. Yeah, that means you didn't come out and support us. So that
you know what? I'm fickle. Y'all make it a stay some there. No. I was at the Siegel Center against TC.
Yeah, we were pretty good, man. I just felt like if we could have, we the only team that really matched up well against us that year was Denby. and they had the big boy Lamont who played football for the Ravens. He went to like Morgan State. He played tight end, and then he went to the Ravens, and then the Panthers. And then they had this one kid that I thought, the only kid that I thought that really matched wits with Adrian Webb was Chris Johnson, and then the only guy that I thought that matched up well with Bill Weaver was they call him Swerve, Brian. He passed away. He had a car accident, passed away in a car accident, but and we ran into them because they finished 4th and we finished 5th. So we had to play them in the
yeah.
I knew that it was going to be a tough matchup, and we ended up losing by like 6, because in that time, if you win one game in PD, you automatically went to regionals.
Right.
Yeah. And we couldn't get past them. And we started out flat. I never forget it. We started out flat. And we fought back and took the lead by 1, but it was just back and forth after that.
So tell us, this year, we know you guys are one of the top teams. What do you see in terms of some of your biggest challenges going forward this season? Are there any particular teams or players, not saying that you can't beat them, but that you think is going to be problems, not just in the PD, but outside?
Well, our biggest thing is to make sure that we box out, because we're not as big as we were last year. I mean, well, we're the same group, but, we don't have a Dallas in there that kind of disturbs, that can get his hands on the balls. And, Dallas wasn't a great rebounder, but, he was tall, and so our biggest thing is just, making sure we control the glass, and we control the glass. And we can control the glass, we're in a lot of games,
What is your tallest player that sees a lot of time?
Maybe 6'4".
Okay,
because 6'9" to 6'4". Yeah,
I called 2 games the other night in the Cal Honore tournament up here in honor of him at Potomac, and Highland Springs played Patriot, and Potomac played Wakefield. But one of the things I've noticed about high school basketball now is Highland Springs had a couple of guys who were about 6'7", 6'6", and were thicker and looked like big men, high school big men. But for the most part, a lot of these teams, it's like they got 5 guards, And I mean, Isaiah Vick is the center on this team. He's 6'7", but he'll definitely be a wing at the next level. So a lot of teams in high school now, a lot of teams kind of just have about that 6'3", 6'4", and they just got athlete good ballers out there. Is that what the Peninsula District looks like too?
Yeah, I mean, we are fairly even across the board. Our guards are big,
Okay.
And we're long, so I mean, going for 6'9", 6'4" is not really a big issue when you have, kids that'll get after it. You can be, I mean, you look at Golden State, Draymond, he ain't 6'10", 6'11",
Right.
But his heart is probably taller than anybody on the floor. And so if you can match that intensity with a 6'4" kid, because you think about it, we're 6'4", maybe 6'5", but 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", 6'3", 6'2".
That used to be a big team.
That's a big high school team.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Oh, that is. Yeah, that is.
That is with those guards, absolutely.
I think we were both saying you reffed a game at Stonebridge about 15 years ago. There used to always be like 6'7", 6'8", some 6'9", and now it seems back to what you said, Rusty. There's a 6'6" guy, but a lot of 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and that's a trend.
You don't see a lot of the old team that you were coaching at Bethel with Duke Cruz and what's the other kid that was
Mel McLean.
Yeah, McLean. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just some of those bigger guys. All right. So with this season, are you guys going to be playing in any particular tournaments, like a Christmas tournament? Are you going away somewhere to mix it up a little bit?
Yeah, I don't play in Christmas tournaments. I played the first year because it was already on our schedule.
Okay.
And, but I don't play in Christmas tournaments. I traditionally don't. For the purpose of, these kids play a lot of basketball during the season, during the summer. And so I try to, what we try to do is recoup and regroup and work on their conditioning, work on their legs, and their stamina, and give them some rest. And we do a lot of skill development during that time and getting shots up.
Okay.
So we and then if you're gonna get hurt, you're gonna get hurt, but it takes away the risk of getting injured during that time. Now if this was a young team, maybe I would, to get more experience, but we play in, we played in my Route 60 Invitational that I do every year. We played in that. We played LC Byrd, and then we played in 3D Sports. We played Indian River at Smithfield on December the 10th. So then we take that little break, and then we got January 28th we play, and then February the 4th we play. Those are our extra games that we play. So
okay,
yeah.
So one of the things I want to ask you is twofold, and then we want to get off the high school game. And we agreed to talk about some of the cool topics that are going on now, like the transfer portal, social media, NIL, those types of things. But the coaching world in high school basketball, you guys have a flow of information that guys like us don't have. So, just give us some of the things that you've heard, and we always make sure that we don't do any bulletin board material. If you put yourself on a bulletin board, that's one thing, but we're not trying to get that, to get controversial stuff. But so what in 5, the top teams, but what are you hearing? And even 6, because you play a lot of 6 teams also. So, we saw Highland Springs play, state champion. We know Maury's good. So what are you hearing out there, about eastern part of the state? And then 5 overall, we got Patrick Henry, Roanoke, which is, where George Lynch played. They won a state title back in 1988. What are you hearing about Class 5 in the state of Virginia?
It's just been, what we've heard is, lately, as last few years, Maury, Highland Springs, Menchville, Norview. So those are and sometimes people ask about Green Run, because they Green Run can be hit or miss. One year they can be flying, then it's like a rebuild, and then they flying again. So, but up north, of course, LC Byrd is always
Byrd, yeah,
they're always in the equation, and so those are the schools that I've heard the most. For its power, in the 6th class, Hayfield is the talk of Class 6, and so as far as here, we only played one 6A school in the last couple of years, and that was Lansdowne. But you got Oscar Smith, who has the big boy over there, Kareem Stagg, and then so in Lansdowne got some good kids. They have some young kids. And then Oscar Smith got guys like Trey Williams, who's I think is pretty good. And then him and Stagg makes a good 1-2 punch.
Yeah. Okay.
Four, you can always have Kings Fork Verina.
Kings Fork Verina, yep.
Yeah.
Well, what I was just thinking this while you said that, you're gonna have Kings Fork next year. I know it's 1 year at a time, but 5 is going to get more interesting. If I were to say, if you fast forward to April or May, and Menchville wins the state championship in Richmond at 5, what will you have done well? Obviously, rebounding margin's big, but give us 2 or 3 things that, if you end up winning this, what will you be saying in April or May, this is what we did well to win?
Staying disciplined, and paying attention to details, as far as what we're saying the other team is doing, and then making that adjustment, but the biggest thing, if you can, is to keep people out of the paint. Cut down penetrations, keep people out of the paint. And that's key. If you're having good guards, like the guard, I'm always horrible with names, but look, the young kid, number 10 for Maury, he's a playmaker. So you have to cut down his ability to make plays, on a consistent basis. You're not going to stop it all, but you can slow it down, but the biggest thing that we're going to have to do is defend. You look at the score last year against us and Maury, it came down to one possession, and both teams were defending. I think the score was like 37-35 or 37-34. Both games we played were very low scoring games. It's not because we couldn't score. Both teams were defending. So, and we kept teams on the perimeter, both teams, so the biggest thing is, like I said, we have to defend. And if we defend, the guards and control the boards, those are the two main things that we're going to have to do in order to make it to VCU.
So, Coach, let me ask you this: Do you have athletes in that program or to come to the school who don't even know who you are or where you've been, or do they ever try to challenge you, see if you can still play?
I don't play anymore. I'll take shots, free throws, and stuff like that, but I don't play anymore. I can't risk getting injured. Achilles. I've seen guys, man, that my that I know that's playing, popping Achilles. I'm like, man, I don't need that. I can't have that in my life. But for the most part, like I said, most of these kids I've had for a while, so they all know. And then the kids always tell them, and the kids always come to me and say, even the kids that I train, I just hustled here to get on the Zoom from training and practice.
Yeah.
And, and most of the kids I train, they'll come and tell me, say, Coach, why didn't you tell us you played the NBA? And I always ask, well, what's that gonna do for your game?
Right.
And they'll eventually find out. But it's, even though I tell them, man, it's been so long ago, for the kids, it's still exciting,
Yeah.
And it gives you credibility, to understanding what knowing he knows what he's talking about. And then when you look at my track record, everywhere I've gone, even when I was overseas, everywhere I've gone, and I was that focal point. We won, I went to Bethel, we won. The first year I was at Warwick, I took over a program that had the two top players or three top players ineligible to play. So I had a team full of kids. I had one guy that had ever played varsity basketball, and everybody else was JV players. So that year we finished 1-20, but we were competing every game. And I told people that when you look at that team, you think about the typical high school team that goes 1-20, right? You're going to start out with 15 kids, but in the end, you're going to have about 7 kids left because they quit. Yep. We started out with 15 kids, but we ended up with 18.
Wow.
Right. And it's not because of the winning record, but it's because they believed in what the coach that they had. They believed in the process, and they ran into a coach that they thought and knew he cared about them. Right. Mm-hmm. So that year we were 1-20. The next year we came back because we worked all summer. I put them in AAU. I kept the group together. We worked. Same thing. This group that I have now. I've had them since they were younger, but put them in AAU and all that. So the next year was the last year for the PD before it went to the classes. Right.
Okay.
And we finished 8-15 that year, and we made the last Peninsula District tournament.
Okay.
Which was very exciting to them. So the process that I've always brought to the program has been a progress or a program of success, a process of success. And so then I went from there. I went from Warwick to National Suffolk Academy, right? National Suffolk Academy hadn't beat Hampton Roads Academy in years.
Mm-hmm.
The first year we lost, right? But I had to get in, and same thing with that. We played AAU. I put the program together. Boom. The next year we came back. We beat Hampton Roads Academy twice, which is like their mirror program.
Right. Yeah.
So that was big stuff. So, and then of course we ran into Mark Williams at Norfolk Christian for the Norfolk Academy. I'm sorry, Norfolk Academy for the playoffs. That wasn't going to go well at all. So we, but we were there. We were in the game. We ended up losing by 9. And
oh wow!
And so then the next year, I went 2 years. I stayed there 2 years, and we got to a height, and that we played really well. People did programs. So then I ended up leaving there and coming back to helping Coach Moore at Menchville. But then I coached Smithfield for a few games. That when Coach Moore passed away, I was doing both. But when I left Smithfield, we were 5-2, and on our way. It was. I mean, we were playing well. We should have been 6-1, but we lost to Tab on a last-second half-court shot. And so, but and the only reason they were 6-2 because the first game I couldn't coach because the background check hadn't come back yet, and so we didn't really have a preparation to play Jamestown, and so they ended up losing. And then I took over, and we were 5. We won 5, and then we lost that one, against Tab. But however we were. Then that's when I took over in Menchville, and then you see the record. Each year we've gotten better, and advanced and so forth. And it's a testament of how the kids work, and there's a hashtag that follows up that we create, what I created, and it's hashtag it's just the way we work, and
I like that.
Yeah, it's our hashtag on our Menchville site. I pour a lot into the kids? Yes, I do. As far as teaching them the basketball game. Am I tough on the kids? Yes. I got on my son today. In our practice, and because the way I look at it and the way I taught these kids, so many people tell kids and not just in kids, but everybody's thing is we want to do it till we get it right. Right. And I always say that's an amateur way of thinking. And people are like, well, what are you talking about? I say, the pro mentality, which it sounds a little maniacal, but my mentality is I do it until I can't get it wrong, and that's a different type of thinking.
Yeah.
And
I like that a lot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because if you're doing it till you can't get it right, you're going eventually you're gonna do it wrong again. But
right.
it becomes that second nature, like I showed a guy today that, how I see the ball coming and I never look at it again, but you'll see my hands lined up in the strings, and in the creases. And because, I've done it so much till I can't get it wrong, And so, and I showed him, I closed my eyes when he threw the ball to me. And same thing, my hands end up in the strings, and so, and that's the mentality that we have. We do it till we can't get it wrong.
That's good. Yeah. I was going to ask you about coaches that you come across, both in the eastern part of the state as well as the state overall. Some of the top public school and private school programs. What are some of the coaches out there within the coaching circles? Back in the day, it was Coach Katufas, and there was Martinsville always had a great program, and there were so many legendary coaches. I mean, present day, who are some of those coaches that you look up to that run very sound programs? And it doesn't have to be east of Richmond.
But there are two people Well, I don't know. To look up to is probably the wrong word for me because I'm older than those guys. But respect, guys that I respect, that I know, like Rick Height, at Kings Fork, he gets his kids charged up, and he gets them playing the right way. Coach Boom at Varina, right? Very good coach. Troy Mans at Byrd, does a good job, and guys like Craig Breon, who again, Craig coaches, and each one of these coaches brings something different, right? Like Coach Breon really gets his guys in position to play defense, right? He's a good defensive coach. Steph does a good job of getting his kids prepared to play, emotionally charged and things, and I don't agree with everything all the coaches do, but I respect what they do and the things that they've gotten, how they've gotten their kids prepared and things like that. So there's a lot of them, and even Coach Plummer again does a great job with his kids at Maury. Coach Rick over at Norview does a good job with his kids. Then when I look on the girls' side, Adrian Webb, I see the things that he does and implement with his girls. Jonathan Wilson at Norview, I've seen the things that he does. And I tell y'all who's going to be an up and coming coach, and once he really gets the program going, is the girls' coach over at Nansemond River, Leroy Skinner. He's gonna, people are not, they don't really, because the girls' program was good before and then it kind of fell off a little bit, but he's going to recharge that program and get those girls playing, the right way.
Okay, Coach, let me ask you something. What do you think when if we were to describe Menchville basketball, would you say Menchville this year or any of the teams in the past that these are teams that are formed in an image of Lamont Strothers, maybe your approach to the game, your mentality, or even, like your instincts, like, are you bringing something, like, do you feel like your successful teams are an image of what you ideally, either whether it was your style of play or the way you were brought up and raised to play or coach the game? Do you notice that you've imparted that on your team, and especially this year's team?
Well, people say that the teams usually take on the image of the coach. I would say that you can't, like what I used to look at with my kids, right? You can't look at the team and see yourself, right? Because they're totally different. Like I had to stop looking at my kids when I was working with them, my biological children, and stop seeing me and see the kid for who they are and what they are, right? Now, you try to, my biggest thing is to impart wisdom, the wisdom side of the game, and which that part, yes, I think I've given them, because one of my biggest things, even when I coach with Boo, one of my biggest things, and people would always hear me say, and you hear people repeat that I've said, is from the board to the floor. You have to be able to go from the board when I draw something up, or we have to make an adjustment. You have to be able to go from the board to the floor. That shows your level of intelligence. And if you can't do that, then you, especially in the end game, you can't. A lot of times you can't play, right? Because the coach, those last 5 minutes, he's going to have, college coaches come sit in the stands, and yeah, they see the starting five, but they also see the remaining five, because those ones in a tough game that's in that last 3 to 5 minutes is who the coach thinks can get the job done in the clutch. Because I've always said every top player is not your closer, right? Just because I'm the best scorer or whatever, it's not necessarily the guy that wants the ball in the last seconds.
We used to always say it's not who starts, it's who finishes.
And that's the saying. I use LeBron James as an example, right? And when I give this analogy, it's not that I'm hating on LeBron, because I think he's an extraordinary player. I think he's an extraordinary mind for the game, right? But he has never been my lion. He's always been my hyena. The lions, right? You think about a lion, right? A lion, he enjoys to hunt. Right, that lion enjoys to hunt. He and then lions. I heard somebody say this the other day, and I said that's not true. Most lions would not attack a prey that's already injured.
Yep, I've heard that. Yep.
Right, so that lion has always been Dwayne Wade, Kyrie Irving, right? But one thing that LeBron is great at is finishing it off. That's the hyena. That's not a bad thing, you know, because you need that cleanup guy, the hyena cleaning up. But Kyrie and Dwayne, and even on the championship team that they won in LA, AD was the lion. And I mean, you think about when they beat Golden State, he deferred to Kyrie. Remember that? When he made that pass to Kyrie, he deferred to Kyrie, but that's also an unselfish player. But still, Michael Jordan would have taken that shot. Good, bad, or different. Mike's going to take that shot, and but going back to what you said, the do they take on my personality? They take on the older personality of Coach Strothers.
Okay.
They don't take on the younger personality. And I wouldn't want that.
Well, that's what I was wondering about. Because I'll let you finish, but I know what I've always heard, like with the NBA, it's hard for Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, for them to coach, because some of the great players, they either it came a little easier, or they were great, or they weren't as great naturally talented, but they work so hard and they don't understand why others don't work as hard or can't do some of the things they do. And so that's why I say, so, Coach Strothers, you played Division III basketball, which means you didn't have a lot of offers coming out. Okay. So you had to work. And you did, and so I'm imagining the way your team is playing defense. Like you said, when you mentioned some of those other coaches, you said Coach Wells' team might see this. You might see this from this coach. Like, do you feel like when I put this thing in here, it may not even matter the talent I have? And that was another thing I was going to ask you. But if we're playing this way, I feel good.
Right. I'm not a guy, some coaches, they have a system, and no matter what the kid they have, this is what we running.
That was my next question. Go ahead.
I don't do that. I wait and see who I have. Now, I've been able to, even like this year, we run something totally different than what we ran last year, because I don't have Dallas.
Right. You don't have Dallas, right.
So, we have a little more movement on the things that we, I tweak things to, but I don't totally switch it up. I just kind of tweak it, and so I just don't believe you can just take in college, you can recruit kids for your system.
Right.
In high school, you got to take what you have, or what's coming in the door. Now, today, kids, they get recruited too, they come to, they recruit them, but I take what I have and then I build on what we have, and make it fit. And not every coach can do that though, because in my career, I had to play. When I was in high school, I was a pure shooter. Then I had the injury to my eye. Then I had to play on down low. Then as things started to come back, I was able to transition back to the perimeter. So now I always say a big man that's played center all his life can't tell. It's hard for him to coach a kid and tell them what it feels like when you're facing up and play one-on-one, and vice versa. A guy that's played perimeter all his life can't now come and tell you how it feels to have a guy on your back and play in the post. But I was blessed, even though the injury caused it to happen, I was able to do both of those, and so even when I played professionally overseas, I would post you up. If there was somebody my size, I would post them up. If they tried to switch and put someone bigger on me, I'd take you on the perimeter. So, those were the things I worked on though. And so today's kids, what you're dealing with is what we call entitlement versus deservedness, and this is the society we're living in now. And everyone is, these kids have been recruited and loved on and recruited and babied and recruited and told that they're the greatest and all that. And then, so as they're moving up the chain, they don't feel like they have to work as hard, but then when you get to college, you run into that guy who, what we say, started from the bottom. Now I'm here, right? So he took and he grind his way to get to college. And now here you come and he's ready to rip your heart out, but you've been given this, you've been given this success. You haven't earned it. So next thing you know, you're number 1,005 in the transfer portal.
Right.
There we go. And that's who we wanted to go with. Somebody.
Right. Yeah, you nailed it, Rusty. He's taking us where we want to go. So we want to kind of close out with some of the trends that are going on today and get your feeling. I will tell you that predominantly our viewership is 35 and older, but we want to get more younger kids. So my question is, the older athletes, older basketball players, and how things have changed now. So you already hit on it. Schools are recruiting now. We've seen the sport that played in the fall. I saw a guy put on Twitter, he's out recruiting today. It's a public school. What's your thought on how this goes in with what you're talking about? Private schools being so prominent now. Kids not necessarily going to public school anymore. They can be recruited. There's lots of things they can get legally through the private schools, transportation, host homes, things like that. What's your feeling on, and we're going to get into some of those things that you're talking about, kids feeling entitled, people know all about them all over the world in 6th and 7th grade, but what's your feeling on private schools? You got Peninsula Catholic down there. You've got Hampton Roads Academy over the south side. Glenn Youngkin went to Norfolk Academy. I know there was a school called Ryan Academy. It was a basketball.
Right. That was in Norfolk.
Right. What's your feeling on that private school? Because we've seen some kids come up here also to play from there.
Well, I don't have a problem with it. Here's one of the things I've always said, and I always stand by. As a parent, you have to do what you feel is best for your child. Mm-hmm. That's it for me. I don't care where you go to private school. I don't care where you go. If you feel like that's the place that your child needs to be, then that's the place you need to take your child. But do your homework first. Don't just just because you had say Armando Bacot. They say just because he went and he did well at this school,
right?
You can go and do well at that school because you don't know the type of work that Bacot kid or Bacot kid have put in to be successful, right? And so now, because I have that kid that's went to UNC and all that, yeah, I can come out and talk to you and say, hey, I just got him, and so now you be like, oh man, I get a chance to go here, go there. But then when you get there, like, man, shit you promised me, excuse me, nothing you promised me is working out.
You can live with that one.
Right. So, and I have a story for that, because people go and they go to these schools, and then next thing you know, they're at another school. The next thing you know, another school, and because they say that the coach didn't do me right or anything. I said, so I have a story. I said, there's a guy that passed away. He died. He went up to the gate, and they said, hey, do you want to go to heaven or hell? He said, well, can I visit first? I was like, sure. He can take you on a visit. He said, where do you want to go first? He said, can I go see heaven? He's like, yeah. We can go. All right, boom. We'll get on the elevator. We'll go up to heaven. They open the door, and everybody's serene and melancholy. Everything is quiet, and you hear that you see the harps playing, and the angels playing the harps. Is all just relaxed. He said, okay, I like that. He says, okay. He said, you good? He said, yes. He said, so can we go visit Hale? He's like, sure, come on. Boom, get on the elevator, go down the hill. When they open the door, they walk in, everything is lively and partying. Everybody's jumping. It's a great time. You know, it's everybody good. Everybody good, partying. He said, man, this looks, you know, this is kind of my party. He said, all right. So he said, you good? I said, good. They go back up to the gate and they say, okay. They at the desk, said, what do you choose? He said, man, I think I'm going to choose Hale. He said, okay, Hale it is. Boom. Send him down the hill. He opened the door. He walks in and closes it. And people fighting and killing. And fire everywhere. It's hot. You know, it's all that. He goes to the devil. And he said, man, what is going on? All this wasn't going on when I came to visit. He said, oh, you saw the recruit tape. And that,
that is a line. It's so
that
funny.
is perfect, Coach. I love that.
Yeah. I wanted to get, let's move to the transfer portal because that's right in line with what you're talking about. But I wanted to say this, that, you know, it's interesting. These kids are getting so much attention, you know,
right.
And they're starving for it because everything they do. I mean, back in the day before social media, people might hear about you, but it was in print, you know, and so the thing is that, you know, some of these kids, Rusty, and, you know, they're obvious, but some of these kids are getting like, you know, so many offers. And I'm like, when you get there, all that glory, and I mean, you are on equal ground with everybody, including a guy that wasn't that highly recruited. And, you know, all that's going to go away.
I'll tell you something. One of the biggest things I think is funny is when I hear kids say, well, why'd you pick that school? Well, because the coach told me I could start as a freshman. You get there and it's like, wait a minute. I didn't start because you got a senior or you got somebody who's a grown man now and they can't promise you that. That to me, that's not what I want to hear. But okay, Coach, I'm going to let you answer these, what Kirk said, and then I want to add. I have a son who's a senior, class of 2023. Pretty good high school football player. And we even went and did the private school thing. Didn't work out. We came back for a senior year here. So, but one of the things we're noticing is with his recruitment process is because of COVID and the transfer portal, 2023s in football, it's really tough if you're not a 4 or 5 star because of the transfer portal. Is that the same thing going on with basketball? Because you got that extra COVID year, you got the kids taking red shirt.
So the kids are up against, it's a tough battle. You know, it's starting to settle down a little bit for the basketball, but it's the same thing. You got transfer portal, you got grad transfers, you got JUCO, you know, and that a lot of schools weren't taking kids out of high school, right? Mm-hmm. So my advice to my kids were, you sign early, right? Mm-hmm. Because kids are waiting till April and that portal fills up and they're like, oh, he came available. Whoop. Yeah. You know, so now the team that was recruiting you, you know, they're like, oh, shoot, I can get this kid. But so like Alan, my son signed early. He did early sign for Etchen, signed early. AJ signed early, you know, and because the schools that are recruiting high schools, you know, kids, and they're coming after you, you know, if you like the program and you like the school, and, you know, because at the end of the day, when the season is over, you still have to like that school, you know, and so sign early. Now, as far as the portal, so here's a good thing that kids have gone in their favor, right? And it's only about 20 or 30% of those kids in that portal that have this
right
thing working in their favor, right? So kids that go like a Ja Morant, right? That kind of slide through the cracks and get that one offer from a small school. They go there and they rip it up. But they already, you know, people knew that kid could play on a higher level, but no one really saw that kid, right? So he goes and he rips it up. And he has the opportunity to transfer and go higher, right? Mm-hmm. What's the boy that plays for Miami? He went from D3 to Michigan.
Oh,
Hero, was it Hero?
Yeah.
Tyler Hero.
Not Tyler Hero, because he played at Kentucky. It was
the shooter.
Yeah, the other guy. It was the other.
Right.
I know you're talking
right.
about.
All right.
Yeah.
So same thing.
Yeah.
Played, was ripping it up. Got an opportunity to go higher. Gets drafted. And play well. So some of those kids, it's legitimately a good thing. But then some of them is just because, I didn't get the minutes I wanted. Okay, if you didn't get the minutes you wanted, and you didn't get the minutes really to showcase what you can do, you don't have the stats to jump in the portal. Now, kids, it's a difference when the coaches leave, right? Yeah. So the coaches leave, you get that opportunity, that transfer and be eligible right away. But however, you have to give it a year or two, to now, like I said, if you got good minutes and you on the floor, you have stats. Boom, you think you want to try it, you're more than welcome to do that, but I just don't think that kids get good guidance, and because everyone's dream is to get to the NBA. That's, when they go to college, their dream is to try to make it to the league or play professionally, and that's great, right? But you got to have some what we call substance. You don't have anything to transfer on,
right?
Now, but if you have a big program like a Duke or whatever, and you jump in the portal to go lower, that's different,
right?
And because you're gonna get picked up, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you on a small program and you jump in the portal, and like, who's that kid? But you just sitting in the portal.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead, Kirk. I have one last question.
No, I was just going to chime in, and then after this, let's talk about, after your point, Rusty. Let's finish up with social media, NIL, and just the environment, pros and cons. But I was watching Tom Izzo, and they asked his opinion on the portal, and he's like, it's not giving kids the opportunity to learn from failing. Like, you get into a situation, you're not playing as much as you think you should, and you don't necessarily have to work your way out of it. You go somewhere else that's got a better situation. Maybe, they signed 3 guards and one of them flunked out or transferred. In life, you're not going to be able to do that. You've got to win in a situation. And I think that, that path of least resistance, there's a player that comes to mind, but I'm not going to name him. He left early. And if he didn't leave early, he was going to go to his third school. So I just think that, getting 5, 6, 7 more minutes, a few more points is, it's interesting. But that Izzo about, what Izzo said about you don't learn to fail. I think you learn more from failure than you do from.
And it's like I told my son, when you fail big.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Denzel Washington.
Yeah. Fail big. The kids, is one thing I tell my kids here at Menchville. Adversity does 2 things. It makes the strong stronger, the weak weaker, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a saying that I have, that a man is anxious to change his conditions and his circumstances, but is unwilling to work on himself or to improve himself. And a lot of times that transferring is not necessarily the condition. It's just you working on you, because you haven't been taught how to deal with adversity. Every time adversity comes in your life, you've been taught to run to the next thing, thing. And so it doesn't build men, and because you don't see that as much on the female side.
Right. Right.
I mean, they have a portal too, but
that's a great point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So, Coach, okay, these last Duncan Robinson is the player you were talking about.
Duncan Robinson, right? Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
But so look, we talked about the portal. We understand all those things, but it's just like my brother played at Virginia Tech. He really wanted to get red shirted. They couldn't afford to do it. But anyway, so look, I'm gonna go. So we talk about that time. Like if he had played back then, he could have just played 4 games to promotion. But let's take Lamont Strothers situation, but everything is back 30 years it started. Does Lamont Strothers, the Division III All-American, best player at that level, one of the best players in the country, period. Does Lamont Strothers, after his sophomore or junior year, look to go? Would you have entered the transfer portal?
I probably would have.
Yeah.
You know, today, yes, I probably would have.
Yeah.
You know, but I was offered to leave CNU twice.
Oh, okay.
Can you say who? Or is that a secret?
Huh?
Can you say who offered you? Or is that a secret?
Coach Zeke Avery, you know, at HU,
Yep.
Okay.
had approached me. And then the guy who could have recruited me when I came out of Forest Glen was Coach Christian at Norfolk State. You know, and he lived right, you know, I could walk to his house, you know, but he didn't recruit me. So I didn't, during that time, I didn't think about leaving at all, you know, and, you know, both of them, you know, say, hey, man, you look good in green and gold, you look good in blue and white, you know, and, because, you know, during that time, that was the big thing for us, the CI. The CI was like the bomb, you know, back then. The CIAA was
CIAA, right? Oh yeah,
you know, yeah. I mean, and but if you could go higher, you were considered the guy. If you got recruited over the CIAA when we were coming along, if a Virginia came, like my brother was recruited football for Notre Dame, you know, and so when you hit that status, you know, because blacks at that time we weren't getting those big time offers, especially where I was from. So when Notre Dame, you know, entered the conversation about about my brother, man, it was like, what, Notre Dame, you know, because it was, you know, it was like mythical, you know, to go there, you know, because the social media now takes the excitement out of
the mystery,
you know, going to a Notre Dame, you know, everybody know Notre Dame, you know, but back then the only time you knew anything about Notre Dame, you saw it on TV.
Yep.
You know, and so and so now with everybody, you know, everything is so accessible, you know, it's not as much, it's still hype, but it's not as much hype, you know, that it was when we were coming along. Well, but to answer that question, would I probably would. I mean that, because everybody's dream is to go bigger.
Yeah.
And even the coaches, you know, the people getting upset with Deion Sanders, you know, I mean, but wouldn't take the $5 million, you know, if you got a million and you wouldn't take the $5 million, you know, and then
1,500% pay raise.
you know. So I mean, what do you say? You either elevate it or you terminate it, you know. And everybody, even, I mean, no one said it when Nick Saban took Alabama. They weren't, he left.
The Dolphins, they did not. The Dolphins didn't like him, but you're right, absolutely.
No, but he left Michigan State, went to LSU. You know, like he left several places.
Yeah, you know. So I mean, yes, and say that to answer that, yes, I probably would entertain it. You know?
I sure wish VCU had recruited you. Good gracious. Well,
I don't know. You know, I was the late basketball. I had Georgia offered me a partial scholarship. You know, I didn't have no money to go to Georgia. You know, and then I've never been out of state of Virginia. Hell, I'm going down to Georgia for, you know, I'm scared to death going down there. You know, and but I had more opportunities in football than I did in basketball. You know, I was starting quarterback, starting middle linebacker. You know, and I had, you know, I had more offers to do, you know, that in NC State, East Carolina, Furman. You know, I had schools talking to me back then.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So real quick, we're going to do our final topic, and that is we're going to do a show. We're going to tape a show on Deion Sanders. So you want to make sure that you're subscribed and you get notified. You'll see a little line that says we're going to drop the show on Deion Sanders. We got a great panel a wide diversity of professional experience. So that's going to be good. But I wanted to finish with this. We were talking about social media and NIL. So one is with your journey, and I'll prop you up for the second question. What do you see being done wrong on social media? Now, there was a big case about a Florida recruit, racial epithet being used. Those are obvious. I'm talking about maybe some of the more subtle mistakes that are made, maybe exposure or whatever. And the flip side of that would be, how can that social media be used to get kids exposure and gain, whether education or money? So, I mean, what are some of the things that you see in social media that, and I'm not talking about the philosophy things, we could talk about that forever, but what are some of the key things that you see? Because your kids are all over. I mean, what are some of the things that you see? And I'm not talking about, putting
my kids.
Go ahead.
My kids, so I used to run a program, and I still run the program. So I run this program that teaches kids how to interact with the media, right?
Oh.
Now, although they're not being asked questions directly, they're reading things that are putting thoughts into their head where they feel like they have to reply, right? So that is still as if you're dealing with the media, right? So one of my pet peeves is how people try and trick kids into answering questions that are whether derogatory or whatever, and it trips them up, right? So my thing is to educate kids how to interact with social media, right? So one of the things that I used to I was so proud of when we called the situation that happened at ETSU when Jason Shea left, right? It was this thing about, the kids kneeling and things like that. And then they say he was forced out because, he allowed the kids to kneel and protest the flag and, in that situation. So when I told Alan, you're going to get, at some point, they're going to ask you about that situation, and they're looking for controversy.
It's a hypothetical situation too, right?
Right.
It's a what if type of thing.
But the media thrives on controversy, right? So in my teachings, one of the things I teach the kids is called the ABCs of answering the media, right? So if you came and you asked me a derogatory question about someone or asking me my opinion in a negative way about someone, we do what we call the ABCs. The A is I don't know about, that's the A. That, but it's the B, for you this. And you throw flowers.
Well, hold on. We had a little late. What is the B again? I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Huh?
I didn't get the B. I missed you on that.
The B is but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got it.
I don't know about this, but I can tell you this. I don't know about that, but I can tell you this. And then, so I was so proud of when he called me, he said, Dad, you told me that they were going to come and ask me such. And he said right away, I remember the ABCs that you taught us during the summer program that I run. And so, but going back to your question, this is what I see the negative side of social media, because once you put it out there, you can't take it back. Because as soon as you put it out there, someone screenshots it.
Yep.
And you think you can take it down right away, but somebody, someone has it, and then you can't take it back. And so it has cost kids opportunities that they could have had because no one educated them on how to deal with social media, And then on top of that, then now what happens when you say have some disparaging comments about somebody, you develop enemies, and you develop enemies that you don't even see or that you don't know. And next thing you know, you reading about someone who's done something to someone, and that's the dark side of social media.
Yeah.
Yep. It never goes away. So a lot of things that are said and done in the heat of the moment are not necessarily recorded, and it goes away. When it's recorded, it never goes away. And let's just say we see this a lot, athletics, politics, or whatever. Later on, you're getting more prominent. Let's go back 30 years when you did this, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it never.
They will find, I know there have been baseball players that might have put something on social media when they were 14 years old. Now they're 30-something years old. You look back and they're not going to focus on the fact you were 14. You said it. So that's why I have 3 kids, and I've told them repeatedly about social media. Like, don't.
Yeah. I just use it for motivational purposes. Every now and then I might say something, but like I tell people, I'm 54 years old. I'm too old not to say what I want to say. But for you,
right.
I'm not.
What for you got to think of your future, and so, but I still make sure that I'm respectful on things when I go on social media.
Yeah.
No doubt. So, Coach, you have blessed us again, man. You kicked some major knowledge, and I hope that the people out there have learned a lot more, not just about your program, but about you and some of your philosophies, and learned about just how successful you've been. I know I've been a fan, and we're the same age, just because I had so many of my boys that were at CNU with you, Lee Martin, a lot of those guys, man. And so I followed you, and again, you didn't even know me, but I'm like, hey, he's from my hometown area, dude, do your thing. And so I love that you stayed in that area, and you really impacted a lot of young lives. And so that's important. If you never win a state championship, you are a winner to me. But I want you to get that state championship.
They're going to win it. I picked Menchville to win 5. The guard number 3.
No, pick us and lose. I win when you pick us and lose. I win. So pick us and lose.
But number 3, Cole, the kid for Highland Springs, is all about penetration. He is a really good ball player, about 6'1", 6'2". We saw him play. He is penetrating big time. But I picked Menchville. And look out for Patrick Henry.
Oh no, Coach. No. Don't do that, Kirk. Please don't do that. Pick Phoebus, your school. Be proud.
Phoebus is straight. Okay.
All right, man. So thanks again, Coach. Let us know if we can do anything. I'm going to try to get down to a game. I want to I'm going to look at your schedule, see if I can find a couple of days where I can check y'all out. Maybe when y'all play Bethel. You go ahead and take that L. But yeah, man, that's green and gold, bro.
It's not 93.
Breon's my guy, man. But just like I told them, I don't care how close we are when I'm on the court, I'm coming for your head.
Oh yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. All right, but thanks again, Kirk. You got anything?
Nah, great catching up with Coach. I want to see you play, so probably try to catch a good game, and obviously we want to see you do well, and we like to see teams do well from down there. But it's going to be a great year. I will close with this. I think public school, high school basketball is starting to come back. There's a buzz about it now, and I think COVID had a lot to do with that. We all had to stay cooped up, so the excitement's there. The gyms are.
But hold on, Kirk. It never left. You live in Northern Virginia, where you're around Paul VI, O'Connell, Bishop Ireton, DeMatha. It never left. When you talk about, even though Richmond has a decent amount, down there, they ain't worried about no private schools. That's not on their radar. And the teams down here, the teams in the public schools, Hayfield showed you. Hayfield, first game of the year last year, blew out Bishop Ireton by 40. First game of the year. And so I understand what you're saying, but you're also giving that DMV lens. Coach Strothers, he ain't scared. He'll come up here. He'll take on the math.
Yeah, I play anybody, man. We play anybody.
But there's so much more. I will say this: there's so much more basketball now. It's like the summer, the highlight tapes, the and1 tapes, and all that. It's like, do I need to go to Menchville's gym or to Woodside's gym to see this kid that everybody's heard about? It's like, that's what I'm saying. Is it's not necessarily the same thing. But I
tell you another coach, man, that I think does a great job with his kids, and he's got a young group right now, and they're competing, and that's Eric Brown from Hampton.
Hampton,
yeah.
Yep. That's
and,
a good program. That's a great program.
And they're like 3 of those kids that I train, because I train all kids. Even if you got great, I got to figure out a way to beat you. But I train all kids, and so. A kid Gavin, and they have a young point guard that he's small, but I think he's gonna be pretty good. His name Cam Jim Rett, but he's small, but he's a very smart kid,
Okay.
And he thinks the game. Yeah, so they're gonna be tough, man.
All right. Well, Coach, we thank you. Is there anything you want to promote? Now, Coach is busy right now, but in that off season, he trains young athletes. So
got great camps, really good camps, and they're affordable. Why don't you tell us about your camps that you run every summer?
I run a spring break camp.
There we go.
Every spring break. Then I run my summer program, which is usually about 5 weeks. And it's just straight basketball, and we do they have to read the books, summer reading and stuff like that during our breaks. I have a podcast starting, and it's called Dope Ass Dads, and it's dope, DOPEAS. It's not like ASS, but it's
right.
Yeah, Dope Ass Dads, and I'll get y'all on, man, and we talk, and it's just uplifting fathers, and but you have to be nominated, though. You have to be nominated, and we have a program that we're ready to release. I mean, a criteria that we get it released, and you just download the form and email it back to me, and we'll select that person, and it just goes from there. But we really talk to, get to talk to the dads. And then I have my father-son, parent-child, father-daughter basketball camp. And that camp does is bring awareness to how to handle your student athlete.
A lot of people could use that, man.
A lot of people could use it. Yeah.
And because there are things that a lot of you breaking up. I hear you. Hello?
Oh, yeah, we were both there. Yep.
Oh, yeah. So it brings awareness of, dealing with your student athlete, because a lot of people have seen me coach my kids over the years, and they always ask, how did it, man, we've seen you work with your kid, and every time I work with my kid, we always argue and we fussing and fight, and one question that I always ask, what do you talk to your kid about the most when you're at home? And they'll say, well, I talk about his body language. I talk about this. I talk about that. I said, well, the difference is my kids and I don't talk basketball at home, because at home I'm dad, in the gym I'm coach, and you have to learn to separate it, and those, those are some of the things that they'll learn in camp, in that camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is great, man. I'm so glad we got you to promote that and tell us about it. So, yeah, Coach. So good luck. For the remainder of the year. Like I said, I hope we check you out. And look, y'all, this Menchville basketball team, I think they're going to do something special. Check them out, support them, and we appreciate you joining us again today.
I appreciate y'all having me, man. Anytime. I saw the email and I forgot it the last time. I said, let me make sure I hit him up this time and stay on it.
All right, good deal. All right. And by the way, one last nugget. Is it Christopher Newport men's basketball #1 in Division III right now?
They lost to
Virginia Western.
Okay.
Last second.
Yeah,
we know they're good. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We'll get their coach on. All right, Coach. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
All right.
All right.
For Coach Lamont Strothers, my man Kirk here. This has been the Kirk and Byrd Show. We are out.